and downloading your copy today. Chesedek and Tad's Records, the ultimate reggae experience.
Bad Friday, 1963, Coral Garden, Montego Bay City. Under the order of Bustamante, them kill and abuse Rastaman brutally.
Tiles are us limited. Ballards Valley Junction, St. Elizabeth. For all your tiles and bathroom fixtures, call 965-1896. Tiles are us. For all your residential and commercial plumbing needs, call Watts Plumbing. We offer leak detector, snaking of sewer lines, high velocity water jetting, snaking and camera inspection. So before you break your tile, just wait a while. And before you break your wall, give Watts Plumbing a call at 876-615-8119. And Tad's Records and the new Tanya Stevens single entitled Good Good, produced by Junior Tads and available on all digital platforms worldwide. Start streaming and downloading today. Tad's Records and Tanya Stevens, the ultimate reggae experience.
Holiday upon the black squall attack and the youths them stress now. Problem not address now. So finger go press now. Time around at and the girl them fat them look well now.
What if we were more open and not just with those around us? What if instead of enjoying Coke at a party, we enjoyed it at home with family? Wouldn't that be nice? Just don't forget, everything can be better when you open up to the world. Coca-Cola, open for better.
Good afternoon and welcome back. What a whole heap of commercials.
Hello, mic check.
You're inside the
Hold
Easy
on.
Skanking.
Hi.
Yes,
Of course, coming up, it's all about season 2 of Road to
Oh, yeah,
Success,
yeah.
The Journey, a feature inside the Easy
Hold on one
Skanking
second.
that is geared to inspire, uplift, educate, motivate, and entertain. From underground radio to the BBC One Extra, today, 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., we will tune into the frequency of ROBBO RANX as he journeys through the bands of life on the road to success.
Let me start that one, yeah. Like how Martin Luther King would have started. My dream, my dream. My dream, my dream, my dream. Tell you my dream is to live my dream. Hear the most I in me sleep when me sleep. Tell you my goal, my goal, my goal. All of my goal is to reach my goal. Live a happy life, put it on me headstone. Nobody no fi cry over me dead. Look at me now, when them treat me less than gold. Put me in a box like a rectangle. Oh, oh. Look at me now, oh. Look at me now, oh. Look at me now. I'm gonna tell you my life for them.
Mic check, 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Crack. We're hearing out here? All right, perfect. Have a good show.
Okay, thank you.
We're talking about a UK dancehall reggae DJ, 3-time Sony Radio Award winner and entrepreneur. We're talking about an ambassador for Jamaican music and culture. His journey has seen the launch of his own online radio network, ROBBO RANX Radio.
When them treat me less than gold, put me in a box like a rectangle. Oh, oh. Look at me now, oh. Look at me now, oh. Look at me now. I'm gonna tell you my life for them used to go round me, go round. No one used to come round me. My life was so lonely. Look at me now, look at me now, look at me now. The blessing does a flow over.
Road to Success, The Journey, a feature inside the Easy Skanking, geared to inspire, uplift, educate, motivate, and entertain. Stick and stay. See you on the flip side of this break.
Get the winning taste and nutrition Jamaica knows and loves with Lasco Food Drink. The time by Lasco Food Drink is...
It is now 12:29. We're standing by. Only a minute to go.
Oh Lord, Lord, Lord. Oh. And this a lil upon mine. Oh Lord,
Roger Robinson, better known as ROBBO RANX, is a UK dancehall and reggae DJ, 3-time Sony Radio Award winner and entrepreneur, an ambassador for the Jamaican music and culture. His journey has seen the launch of his own online radio network, ROBBO RANX Radio. ROBBO RANX, good afternoon and welcome to IRI FM.
Hey, it's a pleasure. It's my pleasure. Hi, Kashima. Good to see you again.
I know, great to see you. Thanks to the technological age. And
Yeah.
I want to use this platform to say thank you so much for agreeing to take us on your journey and sharing your story with us, because it is very important that we have these types of conversation, so people can understand that persons who have gone through it, persons who have made it, there are struggles, there are hurdles, but it's all about how you overcome to get to where you want to be. So thank you.
No problem. It's good to be here. IRI FM, one of the greatest radio stations in the world. A lot of the inspiration that I had when I was kind of starting on radio was like, well, if IRI can go 24-hour a day, then why can't we have that same replicated in the UK? Obviously, we didn't get to 24 hours. We got to, I think it was about 6 hours a week, but that was good enough. And the rest is history, really.
Well, let us begin with where it all started for you. You were born in Northwest London. Take us back to your childhood. How would you describe your upbringing?
It's funny when I interview so many people over the years, and people say, how they grew up, and they, one of the first things people say, like, I didn't realize poverty. I didn't see any of that. I just know that I have loving parents. I had 4 brothers. We kicked around the house. We grew up in a community which was very much a West Indian community. Anybody that knows Willesden and Harlesden, they're like, when people talk about the UK, they always say Brixton, Harlesden, Birmingham, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's the first. So I grew up in Northwest London, which was very much a Caribbean community, but was also a community that had a large amount of people from the other islands. My mother's from Dominica, so my dad's from Jamaica, and they met in an area in West London where there's basically a divide on the streets where you had people from one set of islands. It was crazy, because when you're growing up, you don't know these things. You just know that this is your area, this is where you lived. And then you go across the one of the dual carriageway, the main roads, you're in an area and it's full of Grenadians. You go across the road, you're in an area, it's full of St. Lucians and Dominicans. You go to another part of West London, it's full of Trinis. So this is where Carnival, where we have the Notting Hill Carnival, which is the second biggest carnival in the world. It's because of that melting pot where I grew up in Northwest London. I'm so proud of that, because, as I said, I didn't know this is what I was coming involved. So I embraced so many different cultures, so many different types of family. I grew next door to an Irish couple, and these Irish couple were the first people I heard play Bob Marley to us. They were playing Bob Marley through, and we're hearing Bob Marley rumble through the window, and we're like, what? Do you know what I mean? So it's contrary to what people believe. We didn't just grow up listening to our own music. In our household, it was always Dennis Brown, Gregory Isaac, Alton Ellis, and until I was hearing these guys playing. They used to have a camper van, and that was funny enough, I'd say one of the things that interested me in being involved in playing music was watching a Irish white couple play Bob Marley through the window. And that's kind of like, these are things that stuck with me. And obviously all these experiences make up who you are, and those questions you have when you're 8, 9, 10, 11, when you're amongst musicians. And my brother was a musician. These are the questions that stick in your head. And when you start to find your way in music, or find your way in entertainment, you start to say, hey, I remember this experience, and I recall those experiences. And that's how it kind of dawned on me when I started to do commercial radio, that other people like the culture just as much as us. So all we have to do is just make it palatable, put it on a plate, and serve them.
And you mentioned your dad briefly, being Jamaican, but then you also spoke a great deal about being in that melting pot of different cultures. What was it, apart from you seeing the Irish couple playing Bob Marley from your window, but what was it about the Jamaican culture that resonated so much with you, to the point where no, we can legit call you a brand ambassador for the music and the culture with what you do?
Well, you know, growing up with your family, you can sense the it's undeniable. The Jamaica is, even today, 2021, the most of the street culture that you hear coming through the music, from drill, grime, UK garage, it's all influenced by Jamaica. So Jamaica is so influential. It's an island that punches way above its weight. So growing up in my household, you're almost wall to wall is the culture. You know, wall to wall is the culture. You don't recognize it, obviously, until you get much older. But you know, being around music in the house, my dad making sure that the music he played was the loudest on the street. That's very Jamaican. That's very Jamaican. That's not, the other cultures wouldn't express themselves as much as Jamaicans do. You know, I'm not saying that it's not the case when Carnival comes around, but Carnival was every day. That is a very Jamaican thing. Jamaicans are, especially with the struggles that they had coming to the UK, it was really important that you identified yourself, identity. And remember, it's you know, people would know when Jamaicans step in foreign, you would know it's a Jamaican. It's rebel culture. It's very, you know, there's something about when you see, you can recognize that man, you know. So that gave me a huge sense of confidence when I was growing up in school, regardless of what community I was amongst, English kids and Irish kids and Asian kids. I just knew I was from somewhere, and where I'm from is heavy. And that was that.
You mentioned school. Let's talk about ROBBO RANX, or better yet, Roger Robinson, the teenager. The teenager. What were you like in school, and what was your passion? What were you drawn to? Was it still the music and what was happening in your household that you were still attracted and into at that point?
Yeah, because your household, what happens in your household is embedded in you, even when you go to school. And that sense of pride and being very, I suppose, not to be shaded, never to be shaded. You know, it wasn't about, you know, how much, you know, going to school and wearing the latest this. I didn't have the latest nothing. I was wearing my brother's clothes. But I know what I have on is bush right from head to toe. And going to school, you just, as I said, it's a lot to do with who you are and how your parents mold you. So I stepped into school. I went to schools that, funny enough, the first school I went to when I was growing up in Wilson was like almost like a very Irish school. It was a lot of, you know, grew up amongst white kids in the school and a lot of young Irish families. And then moving on to high school, we moved from the hub, like hard in Northwest London, moving on the outskirts in an area called Wembley. So I went to school right beside Wembley Football Stadium where you know, I used to ride out there on my bicycle when Michael Jackson them used to be in concert and Madonna, and you couldn't get in, but we ride up there on our bikes and said, "Why Michael Jackson is inside the stadium?" And so it was always music. So going to school, yeah, I wouldn't say I wasn't the worst, but I was my grades in English was really high, and geography. And it's funny because that's the things I kind of hanged on the most. It's like being able to communicate and geography, because I know how far the music goes and I know how far I believe that, you know, we can travel and there's different places in the world. So I was always fascinated by geography, and one of my dreams was to go to every continent in the world. So far I think it's only one more continent I haven't been to. So I've been everywhere with it.
Now, with a Dominican mom and a Jamaican dad, can you share with us an experience or a teachable moment that something that your parents said to you coming up that still resonates with you in your adult life, or that has helped you on your journey, on your road to success?
Well, it was my mom. I mean, my mom was the music person in my house. My mom was the one that bought all the records. My dad didn't buy it. My dad only bought records when he went back to Jamaica. So he'd go to Jamaica, buy a whole heap of 7-inch and show off for my mom. But my mom was the record buyer. My mom was a Gregory Isaac fanatic. You couldn't tell her no, just Gregory. So she bought all the records. But one of the things that she instilled in me, she passed away last year, May. And as
Our
most people can
condolences.
testify, I know for men, when you lose your mother, it's a sea change. You feel these changes, and the things she say to you even resonates even harder because they start to sound like she knew exactly why she was planting this in you. But she always used to say to me, and I know it sounds cliche, but you have to be better than better. So in other words, who say they're doing okay, you can't be satisfied with okay. Okay is average. You've got to be better. And that was something we used to grow up with, because obviously in school there was racial problems. There's still racial problems now, as we spoke about to you. I mean, the other day I was telling you about how it is in the UK. It's all brushed under the carpet, but you have to work 5 times harder as a young black male in London. So when people turn around and they say, oh, look at London, there's beer kids killing each other and stabbings and it's post-Cold War. I mean, these things are all covering over the cracks. It's because these kids have never given an opportunity. Because the opportunity is not there, they choose one, as you know, they will choose one opportunity that's right there in front of them, and it's a product of their environment. So you can imagine these black British kids now, who we have one of the highest like murder rates by young kids killing each other, and you're wondering what for. It's because there is no sense of direction, and it's deliberate. It's not like, you know, these kids are you know, they just I grew up in an environment where I had to make choices. I made tough choices when I was 18. I nearly went to prison. And I had made tough choices, but what was important for me, I could hold on to, was the opportunity that was given to me to come and play music, and that was a sound system, that was an avenue, and I grew with these bunch of guys. We started to play music till it became my profession. But growing up, my mom always used to say, you know, if they go 1, you got to go 5. You got to go 5 times harder, and I live with it. She's gone, and I feel it now as like, whatever I'm doing, I just try to make sure that it's the polished article. It cannot look like the other person's one. It's got to look better. And even if it's just in my head, it makes me feel better. That's the way I apply myself.
So talk to us about who provided this sound system opportunity for you, and what did that do for you? What did this outlet do for you, considering, you know, where you're coming from, what you have seen, your introduction to the music, and even how your dad would want to play his music the loudest on the street. Know that you have your opportunity. What was that feeling like?
Well, it was just it was a feeling of belonging to something. I think it's really notable when you're at that age, where a very impressionable age. This is why kids or young people go off the wrong direction. But one thing that's certain, they're chasing something that is, whether it's craving some love, some attention. For me, it was an opportunity to just show my talent. I was always around music, school plays. I was growing up, be always in the school plays, lead actor in things, and I loved music. I wanted to perform as well. Had a band in school. I remember striking up our band in our high school, and nobody ever heard anybody play reggae until the band started to play reggae in school. So I always wanted to be around music. And then the sound system gave me an opportunity to be a performer and an MC, and to be able to, you know, keep the vibes going in a party. And I suppose my story is like many people that grew up, and the avenue or the entry into music, be it producer, be it beat maker, be it record executive, was to be able to go and express yourself. And sound system what was one of the very few things. Or you gonna go and kick ball and become a footballer like John Barnes, who went to my football club when I was a kid. He was one of the older boys, but you know, you could go and do that. And that was kind of like the opportunities, whereas, you know, other people could afford sending their kids to university. The opportunities in the UK was difficult. I mean, even now, like to send a child to university here in the UK, you're talking about £26,000 to educate someone. So it's gone right back to where it was. So I shake when I fear for young people who won't be given that or allowed to have that opportunity. There was a small window where kids could go to university under one of our last governments, and now we don't have that opportunity. So when you're faced with, okay, you want to put your kids through university and you got to find £26,000, or if you can't find it, the debt will be on them for, you know, almost a lifetime. It's crazy. So opportunities is you know, it's where I am at, it's my buzzword. And the more opportunities I can give and allow young people, I mean, that's where my little space is right now, Kashima, is opportunity. Because I got the chance. I can't say I didn't get a chance. I got plenty of chances. And I failed a few times, but I got chances, and I knew what that did for me. It made me the person I am now.
Like you mentioned producing, you mentioned the sound system, and you know, you just being in the space of music and feeling like you belong, and you're exploring. You also helped to form Skyline FM, which is a pirate radio station in West London. Take us back to that moment and just bring us back to that moment. And did you think that pirate radio stations in London force mainstream radio to pay attention? But take us to the moment before we get to that second part of the question.
So I was probably about 21. I did everything. I was producing. I was making records. I was I had records at the time. I released a few records. I went to studio, recorded a few acts. And,
Jack Radix.
Jack Radix had a big song in London that was produced. I was a kid when I produced these tracks, but we didn't know nothing. We just thought, okay, I suppose very similar to the young producers now. You have a beat, you find one of the bad singers, you get to Jack Radix, the man shot, and the tune's gone like #1. I didn't know what to do with myself, but it made me aware of the business side. The business side of the music, what goes on. So shouts to people like John Dovender and Black Dread and these people that were selling records. So we start to understand is the monetary side. I wouldn't say I understand it very well because I moved from doing that and just being a local DJ and you know, making my way DJing in clubs. And obviously the aim then was never radio. It had nothing to do with radio. Radio was, you know, people believed that this radio fantasy was like, we didn't have a fantasy for radio because we didn't have any. We had no radio. It was pirate radio. So, you know, a man who's, I think he's Rita Marley's, connected to Rita Marley's, I think Rita Marley's brother in the UK, started a pirate station called DBC in my community in West London, Dread Broadcasting Corporate, whatever it was called, but it was called DBC. And we used to turn on this thing and hear this thing 24 hours a day. And these guys are playing raw vinyl 45s. And you're like, you know, this is something new. This ain't sound system. This thing's coming through your speaker. You could just tune the dial, but this thing is illegal. So it wasn't long. We're talking about in the mid 80s. It wasn't long after that. People who are passionate about sound system. I mean, at the time, Saxon was the biggest thing. Papa Levi, Maxi Priest. Everybody wants to emulate, you know, Sir Coxon. Everybody wants to emulate this. But this radio thing became like this radio thing became like Instagram. Everybody had to be on it. So pirate radio. But the thing with pirate radio, it was illegal. So all those records that your parents took time in shuffling from Jamaica, bringing back, and you get your little pile of records, you go and do this illegal radio station, and the door gets, you hear, and you say, who that? I said, police. And it's 6 big white police officers kicking off the door, confiscating your records, arresting you. It was a risk, but it was an enjoyable risk. So we had the opportunity of creating our own. And salute to Mikey Coos and Fatty. These guys had experience in doing pirate radio, and we decided we want to do one. So we scaled the tower blocks like everybody else, went up there with wire and scaffolding thing, and go up there, you make an aerial, and the rest was history. And this became like the hottest station on the streets. At that time, what propelled the station, it was like, okay, so this thing, everybody in this particular part of West London was listening to this Skyline radio, and they announced the Penthouse family coming to the UK. First show for Buju Banton. So Buju's coming. Buju's just now the breakout artist. We're talking about would that be in early 90s, the breakout artist comes to London, and the promoter says, okay, we need to promote this show. We need to get it out here. Let's use this pirate station. So no doubt Buju comes from the flight, first time in London. I mean, this time he's just got 1 and 2 songs, Stamina Daddy and them little song there. I rattled down the place, and he was the talk, you know what I mean? And it was the first time we had a DJ, an artist, live artist, come to a pirate radio station, because it's a risk. You're in an illegal building, but promoters like saying, Buju's got to come. He's got to promote the show. We have a venue and it's 6,000 people, and we need to fill this venue. So Buju turns up at the station. There's pandemonium, school kids from everywhere, bus are stopping at the street. It was madness, because most of the Jamaican community knew who this guy was, but the average person out the road didn't know Buju Banton. And the owner of the station said, well, somebody's got to big up the show. And he pointed at me and goes, you're the one's going to talk to Buju. So, I mean, to this day, Mark will tell you that he remember his first interview in London was with me. It was a pirate radio station. And then he went on to do, obviously, other radio stations, and the rest was history. So that was my first taste of like, okay, so he's the hot guy, and he had a lot of things to say. Put him in front of a microphone, and that's really kind of started with me and my like fascination with the stories from artists. And I've never stopped doing that. It's something that I continue to do. I like to hear those stories, and I'm sure people do as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome story you just told. But in the moment, it's still young and fresh, and this is Buju Banton from Jamaica. You're following the music, so of course, you know, you're understanding that it's a big deal. You could have crumbled in the moment when the owner for the station points at you and say, look, you're going to interview Buju Banton. What did you do in that moment? And did you have to psych yourself up to say, like, come on, you know, let's do this?
Buju was a big deal. Before Buju came to London, the only artist I remember, I mean, there's 3 artists that caused roadblocks in the UK. 1984, Yellow Man come to London. He causes a complete standstill. They block the street. There's a venue called Pickett's Lock. It was madness. The next artist decides to go and sign his album down in Tower Records in Piccadilly Circus. Police had to go in there. The kids went in there. They smashed the shop up. It was like a rock artist turning up, but that rock artist was RANX. So these are phenomenons that when they touched London, it was like, and I can't remember. I think we'll touch on the other artists, but those were the like these moments. So when Buju Banton come, this is a moment now. So he's coming everywhere he turns up in the black community. It's shells. It's just like, it's pandemonium. People want to see this guy. And that I knew I had to kind of like, you know, not only do the interview, but quell the community to say, listen, guys, don't go crazy, because Buju's about to step out of the building. But it still happened. The school kids come. And young schoolgirls back then, you know, Caribbean schoolgirls, man, when they see their artists, it's like, it's crazy, because they don't get to see them all the time. It's like these guys back in the mid 80s and early 90s, Jamaican artists coming to the UK was like, it was like a festival. I mean, we still have that, but not to the extent that it was like back then, when the music was everybody's favorite, everybody.
No, Skyline FM actually created, which is the pirate radio, created major opportunities for you, because from Unique FM's The Street Experience to hosting a weekly reggae dancehall show on London's Choice FM, and an 11-year residency with your weekly Uptown Splurt parties at Cameo's nightclub in 1998. Robbo, take us back to this moment, because, you know, the 90s was such an evolutionary period for dancehall music. Describe for us how the new sound impacted the London music scene.
Well, I think by the turn of the 90s, because dancehall at its time was at that point was at its peak. It was like, this is now not only just seen as a Jamaican phenomenon. This is seen as street culture. There was two types of sounds that was hot on the streets, which was jungle music, and dancehall. So that was the sound of London. British kids loved jungle and they loved dancehall. And some of the biggest jungle songs were artists like Supercat, Ninja Man, remixes of Steely and Cleavy's big tunes, Jump and Sound, all of us, so many songs that were like, even Buju Banton, People Quick, these songs were done in jungle. So the two main force in terms of music on the streets back in the mid-90s was jungle, which obviously had overtones of dub and dancehall, and of course dancehall itself. But by that time, UK kids used to call it ragga. They used to call it ragga. The kids would say, "Would you want to hear? Do you want to hear a bit of ragga? Ragga." They used to just call it ragga because that was the name for it. Nobody really called it dancehall back then. It was ragga. That's what street kids used to call it. So they were the heaviest sounds on the street back then. So as long as you were playing that sound, you'd be trending. It was the most trending sound. It was like, that's how it was in the 90s. At the turn of the 90s, by the time, I suppose you didn't experience it yourself with IRI FM becoming like a legal station and taking on this mantle of, okay, well, the music is so strong, let's play it 24 hours a day. People was already making serious thoughts about what next for the music. So we went through that period where we had artists, major dancehall artists being signed to Interscope, CBS, Shabba, Supercat, Lieutenant Stitchy, Patra. That moment was like, it was a big deal. And then all of a sudden, one incident that happened so listen, the music is so big. There's a show that used to go out on a Friday night, which was called The Word. And the guests on The Word were like all the biggest artists in the music space, from rock to dance. So they invite Shabba RANX on the show. And at that time, Shabba just recorded Adam's Family soundtrack. Shabba's the big deal. He's a superstar. And there was obviously Buju Banton who was emerging. And it caused such a problem because obviously the conversation of homophobia was the first time it was addressed in British media. Nobody knew of, this conversation, and this conversation made mainstream. So it's hit The Guardian, the News of the World, the Sun newspaper, and it's all about what Shabba's response to Buju Banton's Boom Bye Bye. So around about that time, this is where kind of like the pennies dropped with the music. The music is so forceful because no matter what happened with that conversation, obviously it had major effects on where the music went in terms of mainstream radio. But the die had been casted that this music is really powerful because these kids are not going to turn it off. They're not going to turn it off. Regardless of what the media is saying, they won't turn it off. In fact, it made reggae shows by the turn of, you're talking about 97, 98, 99, the biggest reggae show. The shows just got bigger, and the audience got bigger because, because of that one incident, it made it gave the music another
push,
just another lease of life. And we last saw that with obviously what Bob Marley did
ROBBO,
10 years prior.
ROBBO, we're going to take a quick break and come back. So hold the point. Interesting conversation, awesome stories. We want to say to our listeners, listen up to the top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick, and cashpot lunchtime draws up next.
You are what you drink. Your premium. Enjoy Heineken specials at your favorite bars. Drink responsibly. Socialize responsibly. The time by Heineken is...
It is now 12:59.
When me use Island Fresh with aloe vera, it make me skin feel so much smoother. So if you want to feel better and smell fresher, use Island Fresh with aloe vera.
Manufactured by Island Products, 934-0666.
The time is...
It is 12:59. We're standing by, so listen up to your top draw dollars. Pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick, and cashpot lunchtime draws up next.
The sun shall not smite I by day, nor the moon by night.
Of the Supreme Ventures lottery games. This could be your lucky day. Get your tickets out and let the games begin.
Good afternoon. It's Thursday, March 25, 2021. I'm Samantha, and welcome to this afternoon's Supreme Ventures live game draw. Now, before we begin, here's a quick look at our mid-morning winning numbers. Now remember, all Supreme Ventures live game draws are supervised by the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Commission and observed by the independent auditing firm PwC. So now let's put some money in your top draw. This afternoon's jackpot is $600,000. Here are the winning top draw numbers and good luck. And for money on top of money, first up for top draw this afternoon is 17. The second top draw number is 19. Now making its way down is lucky number 6. And for $600,000, you're going to need number 21. The final top draw number this afternoon is 7. So now let's pick your play with our dollars game. I hope you're feeling lucky this afternoon. The winning dollars numbers are coming your way. Here goes. First up for dollars is 34. The second dollars number is lucky number 2. Next in line we have 6. Making its way down is 33. Next in line we have 31. And 31 is followed by lucky number 7. Now I'm halfway there and I hope I'm calling your winning numbers. Next up is 30. And 30 is followed by 16. What's next? We have 24. 24 is followed by the number 14. And making its way down is lucky number 1. Now we're wrapping things up this afternoon with the number 8. So now for some easy winnings with our Pick 2 game. Get those tickets out. Let's go play. First up for Pick 2 this afternoon is 14. The second Pick 2 number is 6. So again, the winning Pick 2 numbers are 14 and 6. And up next, you can play it 3 ways, and that's of course our Pick 3 game. Here we go. First off, a Pick 3 is 2. The second Pick 3 number is lucky number 7. The third and final Pick 3 number this afternoon is 2. So again, the winning Pick 3 numbers are 2, 7, and 2. Now it's time to turn up your winnings. Of course, get ready for Pick 4. And as you know it, the balls are bubbling up. First off, a Pick 4 is 4. The second Pick 4 number is lucky number 1. Now I wonder what the third Pick 4 number will be, and it's 3. The fourth and final Pick 4 number is 1. So again, the winning Pick 4 numbers are 4, 1, 3, and 1. Now guess what? It's easy for wins. So let's heat things up with Hot Pick. Get those tickets out. The winning Hot Pick number this afternoon is lucky number 1. Congratulations, all Hot Pick winners. Again, the winning number is 1. Let's get ready to play our cash pot game for Thursday, March 25, 2021. Now you live to play it, but can you win it? Get ready to be a big cash pot winner. And let's see what the winning cash pot number will be. And this afternoon's winning cash pot number is 3. Congratulations, all cash pot winners. Again, the winning number is 3. It's now time for some mega winnings. Good luck. What will it be this afternoon? And a white ball has been selected. So go mega 6 times per day for more chances to win big. Again, the winning cash pot number is 3 and the lucky mark for 3 is dead. And a white ball was selected for both cash pot and hot pick. So now let's take a look at this afternoon's winning numbers. And of course, congratulations to everyone who won. And please do join us again at 3 p.m. with Lisa for more games you love to play. I'm Samantha. Have yourself a supreme afternoon.
Hope you were a big winner. Play your favorite Supreme Ventures games every day and tune in for our live draw 6 times a day at 8:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8:25 p.m. on this station. Supreme Ventures, making winners every day.
That was the lunchtime top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick and cash pot draws. Congratulations to all of today's winners. Join us again at 3 p.m. for another chance to win in hot pick and cash pot special pot draws.
Nation, baby. Rain or shine, any weather. When we go pool, we go Berger.
The time by Berger for lasting beauty and protection is
5 minutes after 1 o'clock.
All right, everybody. Big up,
me swag, flavor in a cup. Chow the thing mad, beer vibes they enough. Full of stripe and a general. Fresh like melon, every girl walk up. So reach for the scene, every several star bus. Lemon is a must, big up and just. Flavors in a the rave and that's a plus. Anywhere we there, yeah, anywhere we there. Come on, a red stripe flavor we say, yeah. Anywhere we there, yeah, anywhere we there, yeah. And that stripe of flavor. Must be 18 years and older to drink. Drink red stripe responsibly. Socialize responsibly.
All right, don't forget that the hour 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. inside the Easy Skanking is brought to you by Red Stripe Flavors. Add a stripe of flavor. Now, Robbo, before we went to Cashpot and the break, we were talking about how reggae and dancehall impacted the London music scene in the 90s. And you were giving us stories about Buju Banton, Shabba RANX, and, you know, when the conversation started as it relates to the other communities who felt like the music was being bashful of a certain lifestyle, then that in itself, you're saying, helped to propel the music to a next level.
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, something, you know, they say out of dark comes light, you know, and obviously, you know, Maxi Priest, Shaggy had big moments on the British charts. So here comes a certain controversy that it's like with it's funny. It's like I think it happens everywhere in the world. Anywhere there's controversy, the kids love it. They're like, wow. They're like, really? And a lot of kids, British kids, didn't really even understand what the Passa Passa was about. They just went on and just supported the music. And obviously now you've turned the corner. Now we're steering now into the early 2000s, and the demand for black radio became kind of louder, because you got to understand the BBC wasn't created by somebody's bank account. It was created for the population of the UK, and we all pay into it. It's paid for by the public. So my mom, my dad has worked in the country 30 years. They're paying into something, and we don't have no representation. So representation was like the biggest cause. You're waiting for somebody to play Shaggy's Old Carolina, begging them to play, you know, Maxi Priest. We don't have no representation. They used to give, a couple of DJs had shows on these networks, but they were like way out in the early hours of the morning. So the lack of representation caused us to fight for what we wanted. And this is where pirate radio had kind of played a big part in the authorities knowing now that they knew that the demand was there, because pirate radio was going on for at least 10 years before One Extra was set up. So they knew there was a demand, but what we wasn't having, the conversations wasn't like, actually, we're not going to pay your TV license. We're not paying the TV license. And that's where a lot of pushback from the heads of the BBC to open up. Radio 1 was the biggest station at the time, 18 million people up and down the country, no black records on it. But yet still the biggest music on the streets is jungle, dancehall, and, you know, these forms of music. Obviously before then would have been roots reggae and R&B and soul. So you've got this R&B music causing a stir, the Diddies, the Puffies, the dancehall. There ain't no representation on mainstream radio. So when the conversations got louder that, you know, without the mainstream, without the representation, they gave a few licenses. So Born was Choice FM, and there was another station up in Birmingham, and it didn't satisfy people, because people would point back at the BBC and say, what are you guys doing? You know, you're getting this funding from us and you're not giving us anything. So it was something that was born up by the party that was in power to, obviously, we've got to do something about this. So in comes Radio 1 Extra. So Radio 1 was the big station. Let's give them an extra. In other words, just give them something. So they gave us 1 Extra. So, you know, at the time I was on Choice FM, and the opportunity came to me. Shouts to Ray Paul, who came over to me whilst I was on a commercial station. I was loving life on commercial stations because I was doing shows. I just did this sellout show with Elephant Man in the UK, Elephant's first show, TOK. I'm like, I didn't need to go to no BBC. I'm on commercial radio. I just shout out my show, and these parties, because the music is booming. So I thought about it. Obviously, BBC. It's a bigger station.
Big
But
deal,
then the question came like, yeah, but you can't hear it on air. You can't find it on. And I said, so how do you find it then? They said, oh, this fantastic new thing called DAB. So this is pretty similar like Sirius radio in America. I said, DAB? What is that? I know that if you put an aerial up in the air and you beam this reggae, people are going to come running because dancehall and reggae is where it's at. I said, no, we're breaking this new technology called DAB. It's digital. And I said, listen, bro, if I can't hear that in my BMW driving through Harlesden, that ain't going to work. He said, no, it's gonna be groundbreaking. I said, groundbreak me a check. So I left Choice and went to BBC. So we got over there. We did 6 months of they call white networking, just testing how the stations were going. I was saying, why do we need to test for 6 months when we know that this music is food? This is going to clap. They said, okay, they're going to launch the station. I think it was August 2002. And they said, we're going to launch it and we want to make a big launch. And I said, all right, let me call somebody. So I called Sean Paul. I said, Sean this is just Give Me the Light. I said, look, there's this fantastic new radio station going to be launching. You can't hear it. It's digital. Sean's people like, huh? So how we get our records paid? We want to be on Radio 1. I said, no, I can get you on Radio 1 extra. It's the extra bit, but you can't hear it. It's digital. Anyway, after going through that, explained it, and Sean decided to come. And that's how One Extra was launched on the back of the success of obviously Gimme the Light at the time. And it was, the music was so cool at the time. Diwali, Reading My Bonks, these bad juggling things. We're moving into the 2000s and the music is changing. It's becoming a little bit more business-like. We are now starting to see dancehall artists back being pin-up stars. Up to the time, Vibes Cartel, Elephant Man's dropped this album, and One Extra is the station that's rolling around.
Endorsing.
By the time the station had launched, dancehall was the #1 genre on the stations. We needed more than one show. So Silver Star, Young Lion became DJs on the station. And it was quite evident that the music was really strong. And in the words of like Shabba Ranks and Home T, it was the music that people wanted, like the song Pirate. They call us Pirate. It's the music that the people wanted at the time. So the strongest sounds at the state at that time would have been drum and bass and dancehall. So I think the what really shaped the station was definitely BBC One Extra was the presence of dancehall, and it is still relevant today. They get big views on obviously local music, UK music, rightly so. But when they investigate the culture, that's where a lot of people look to and think, wow, this is amazing. So one of the things that we wanted to do was like, we got a lot of resistance. They didn't want to spend to bring camera teams to Jamaica. How are we going to do that? The BBC cameraman has to travel. And, there was all these things they would try. We were like, well, just get a little small phone and let's film it. So we took a crew to Tough Gong. And we went to Big Yard first. I think that would have been around 2003, 2004. And we filmed, some legendary stuff. We did an event called Dancehall After Dark. We filmed, obviously, all the stars that were hot at the time. And then we took it to Tough Gong and we started to do these live sessions, which I actually saw on Jamaican TV. So Jamaican TV was obviously doing this long ago, but I thought, how fantastic would it be that we can bring this to the 1 million+ audience that we have now on the BBC? And that's what we did. And this is pre-YouTube. So, some of the great moments that we had was before YouTube. Obviously now, you got YouTube and Instagram and it looks good, but this stuff was done radio. We brought Sting to British radio for the first time. And that's where I won my first Sony award, because that Sting show would have possibly been the worst Sting show ever. That was the incident where Ninja and Cartel 2003 kickoff at Jam World. But we've gone in to record the show, and the engineer, the English engineer, was like, I think we should go. I think we should pack up and leave. And we said, no, keep recording this, because he goes, I don't think we should I said, let's keep recording it. Every bottle, every kick, every punch, we followed Ninja, we followed Cartel, we went to we went to where the police called them together. I can't remember who was the commissioner at the time. I remember Mark Shields being very interested in, why are you guys interested in filming this stuff? And I was like, because it's interesting. And he didn't want us to be around, but we continued to film it, continued to record it. And funny enough, that program we brought back to London. It was aired in January 2004, and that's what won our first Sony Radio Awards. So it was because they thought, this is an amazing incident. Here's a show. It's clearly the biggest show on the island. Everybody who's got a thirst for the music goes to this show, this annual show at the end of the year. And these guys go and film an incident and carry on recording it. And that's what we did. And we won a Sony Award. That was my first Sony Radio Awards. And the Sony Awards in the UK is like, it's like the Mobos or for radio. So winning that just further proved this music is food. And I still believe that to this day.
Robbo, so much you have said that I want to jump on. I have a follow-up for this thing, and I also have you leaving, Choice FM, going into the BBC One Extra environment. Have you ever had situations where, for entertainers and persons eventually hearing their music and know that BBC One Extra is endorsing them, have you... And they may appreciate or not appreciate it, but on the back end, what are some of the challenges and struggles that you had to undergo to show them that this music, this art form, it is rich and it is deserving of this platform, and it needs to be heard?
Well, some of the challenges, the first clear and obvious challenge is it's a white-run radio station. They're used to giving pats on the back to white DJs on Radio 1. But here comes this smaller station, which is supposed to be the knockoff, the Chinese version. And the Chinese version that plays black music is picking up more listeners by the day than the main station. So it rubbed a few people up the wrong way. And obviously there was a lot of pushback, because we were saying, okay, if this music is so great and the listeners are moving close to 1 million, at that time, Radio 1 was like 16 million, but it's dipping now to 11. It's going down, and One Extra is going up. Clearly, you should just make One Extra become a space on Radio 1. So that's what we were always pushing for. And that's where the pushback, because they just wouldn't have black DJs on that station. Trevor Nelson's the only black DJ, and then Westwood, who's obviously a white guy. And at the time, my brother Chris Goldfinger had a show, and he's a legend in the game. He had a show on Radio 1, and he tried to hold it up, and they got rid of his show. So there was always pushback from them, because it's like, it's this music from Jamaica. Who governs it? And they signed. They're independent. How do we? So they couldn't. You got to understand is the business side of it is like, how do we eat? How do we break our bread? And we've only got like there were two main hubs at the time, was Jetstar and VP Records doing their thing. So these are the challenges we had, was obviously to try to bring that conversation back to Jamaica. And obviously there's great ears and business people in Jamaica who understands the music part well, because they're more versed and travels, the Gussie Clarks, the Robert Livingstons, the Marley family, and Shaggy, and these guys totally understood how to connect. But it was obviously the root branch of the music is try to get that to connect with mainstream radio. But there was lots of successes. And then there was also not understanding that not only is dancehall part of reggae is dancehall is reggae. So I remember walking in one day, and there was a record by Taurus Riley, She's Royal, and clearly was one of the biggest songs in London. And people going crazy for this song, and going into the playlist and saying to these guys, we should playlist this music. And they turned around and said, nah, why should we why are we going to go? It sounds old. It sounds like reggae. Clearly, everybody wants dancehall. I mean, so these conversations like, nah, it's all part of the music. They looked at Taurus Riley and they said, but he's the old guy. I said, no, Taurus is about, this time Taurus is in his 20s. I said, it's just a young cat. He's, young people do reggae. And it's the same challenge we had when we had Chronics, when we brought Chronics to the attention of the station. It was like, yeah, but do people want to hear that? Don't they want to hear this ragga stuff? So there's lots of challenges, but these challenges is clearly because senior management doesn't understand. They don't understand the culture. And I'm sure this conversation I'm having, it goes right across the board for all types of music, where you've got people who are clearly in executive roles and executive positions who don't understand the culture. They only understand one thing, what brings in listeners, and clearly not listening. So there was a lot of that was going on. Luckily, we had good execs at One Extra that could understand the passion of the DJs who like drum and bass, dancehall, R&B. But then when you start to move to the bigger station, Radio 1, there was always the challenge to try to break that monotonous, clearly black DJs can't present black music. And it's happening today. We still got the same kind of moronic way in the UK that only, black DJs can't be at the forefront of black music. And the pushback is clear because we listen to so many black DJs, so many black sound systems. And that's what I grew up on. And I didn't buy into, well, you've got to be a certain color to play reggae. So, sometimes, you got to weigh up the good and the bad,
How did you deal with all of that though, Robbo? Because had you not said it, I'm sure the industry and a lot of persons on the outside looking in, this is not something that we could know or tell based on your attitude or how you present or conduct yourself because of your level of professionalism. But what was it doing to you, and how did you deal with it, understanding the space and knowing who governs it and what you need to ultimately get from it?
I think in my last, from period of like 2012, it was probably the most frustrating time I ever had with radio. But clearly the show was the biggest show on the platform, and the lack of urgency to promote the music more, to give it more space. And they would send us down to Jamaica in January. You come there with your cameras and they say, thank you very much. You film all your stuff, you do your interviews, and that was it for the year. This once a year trip to Jamaica. And I'm saying, the music reaches further than Jamaica. There's other spots that are clearly, you go to Rotterdam in Germany, in Spain, you go to these big shows happening in Miami, best of the best. And I'm saying, look, the culture is wide. You've got to examine all these places right now. Currently, like in Nairobi, 30 million people. I mean, I do a show in Nairobi right now. We on a station got 1 million listeners every Saturday. The music is far and wide. And if we're at the BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Corporation, and it's paid for by the taxpayers, surely we should enlighten people how big the music is. It's not just, let's go to Jamaica and then come back. Let's go to Jamaica and come back. Clearly, they've carried on that because they think that's the only way of doing it. Or in some ways, it's like a way of just shutting people up. But we could do a lot more. And in my travels, I got to see how much more impactful the music is. And like what you're doing now, you're opening, you're sharing stories. I'm telling you a story from London that people would never understand. There's kids right now, G Money in Kenya, telling you how big the music is. You got DJs in Ghana, Gambia. The music is fruitful, and we just need to kind of like have more belief in the music. I mean, that's clearly led me to doing what I did. But I jumped off in 2014, and it was a strange time because I felt it was my time. I just felt
to go.
It's time to go because as long as you're walking into a building and the guy who's on the other end having the conversation is not of your culture, you ain't gonna win. You ain't gonna win. You ain't going to win.
Do you think that our music is still being exploited, and what we seem to be getting are just consolation prizes?
100%. And that's what happens when someone is not of your culture. He sees it as just a way of, it's just I can exploit it. He has got no feeling to this music. he has got no. He's here. You know, you're talking to people that don't even have a soul. They ain't got no feelings, so they will exploit it. And that's one of the reasons why they got rid of black management and brought in a solely white team to exploit it. And this team was the team that was looking after Radio 1, who are failing. What is it that these guys are? Let's bring a team over there and let's run the station. So they kicked out the black team, and all of a sudden, this white team came in, and the station became all bristling white. So when they do moves like that, you've got to ask yourself why. You can clearly stay on Radio 1 and play rock music and you know pop records and you know Kylie Minogue and all of that stuff. Why are you coming over here? You're coming over here clearly to exploit the situation, to exploit young Jamaicans, to exploit the culture, and that's what they do. And it's a business model to them. Sometimes people look and think, okay, well, they're just doing it because they know black people are not this and that. No, it's a business model. Clearly to exploit.
No, you have launched your own online radio network, ROBBO Radio. You went to the BBC One Extra with a lot of experience that you have garnered just from being out there and doing it raw and real. And I'm sure you would have learned some stuff from them as it relates to a big corporate giant. Talk to us about the startup of your company and how along your journey, how you would have applied what you have learned along the way to your very own online network.
Well, being where I was gave me an opportunity to understand media. I mean, it's not only a place of music, it's a place of news. It's a news media. I know you're Kashima's in the world. There's things that you're allowed to do. There's things that you're allowed to say. There's times you've got to keep your mouth shut. There's times you've got to tell it like it is. And that's what I learned when I was there. Although I'm playing a music, which in the words of Popcorn can be very unruly, but you've got to learn when to push, when to pull. And that was one of the great training that I had there, and I appreciate every second being at the BBC for that. It was a great experience, a great university of media. So I felt when I left there, well, okay, I know that people want to hear the music. I clearly know what they want to hear. There is no reason why I can't do it. Obviously, nobody does it before. Nobody's done it, but I lent on my experience with pirate radio station. If people want it, try find a way of getting on the rooftop and doing it. And it so happened at the time that, you know, the way of getting to people was clearly the mobile phone. So TuneIn Radio had just kind of launched this app. And I was interested, like, they was like, you know, we broadcast 100 radio stations, thousands of radio stations across the world. I said, well, broadcast mine then. And it was simple. They was like, well, you got to be a 24-hour platform. I didn't come into this thinking I want to be I've had conversation with Kashima about it. I didn't have conversations like I wanted to be a 24-hour radio station. I just want to carry on doing what I'm doing, but being able to get into people's space. So clearly mobile phones were changing, the technology was changing, and as you can see now, people can live stream on an Instagram or on Twitch and garner all this viewing and listenership by just being able to engage with the person on the other end. So that's what I did, and I went .com, and that was the only reason I did it, was because I thought, well, if the only way of being able to be on this platform was to be 24 hours, okay, I will run a 24. Funny enough, I went to a shoe shop in the middle of London in Oxford Street, and it was a sportswear shop called I can't remember the name of the sport, like JD Sports. And the guy on the end was like, this is JD Sports Radio, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, right, the shoe shop's got his own radio station. Then me have one too. So I took the technology, what they use in the in-store radio stations at the big retail stores, and just applied it and did my own. There was obviously people doing online radio at the time, but people kind of presented it as online radio. I just wanted to present it as a stream. So, 6 years on, we did what it did, and luckily it was recognized. Mixcloud comes another radio award in 2018. So getting an award for presenting the music that I love, by an organization that recognized radio is radio. It doesn't matter what you play, it's how it's presented. And I won that in 2018, and that kind of gave me, that was all I needed. It was just okay, this is right. And I just carried on. We've gone now, the show gets almost 2 million plays. Well, no, we're past 2 million. We've hit 2 million 300 and whatever. Figures are nice, but when you see it in real life, like you look at it and you think, okay, all right. But then it meant a lot. It meant a lot because it just means, it just confirms, it just validates that what you're doing is the right thing. So yeah, that's one of the main achievements there.
And, congratulations, ROBBO. I know that on your journey also, you would have assisted and helped the music and a lot of entertainers as well. Are they supporting ROBBO RANX online radio?
Well, clearly, people have had good relationship. We just done a big interview with Spice. We did a big interview with Shaggy this year. We did a big interview with Sean Paul. We did a big interview with Cranium. We just did one with my brother Charlie Blacks. We just do, obviously we break new artists from Kabaka Pyramid, from Leela Ike. We just done Yakster yesterday. So we're getting the support. I mean, there's ones and twos. I'm pretty sure they're just not very good at. They're good on their social media. They're very good on social media. They're very good at getting numbers, but they haven't quite learned that you still have to be a social person. So being this, okay, I only post and I don't talk back to people. I don't reply back to my comments. That's great. There comes a moment where Instagram will be taken down. What are you going to do then? So you still have to learn. You still have to learn. If you're an artist, people will move to you because they like your art. They like your artwork. So then if they like your artwork, they have to see how your heart works. So you still have to be able to engage. And that's why I press on artists. I don't press people who don't want to engage with me. There's a few artists that I've helped over the years. And they've shown nothing but, they've just not showed any back love. But that's something you expect in the music industry. There's people that you go 9 yards to bring to the forefront, break them in London, and they won't even give you an interview, much less as a jingle. But because I've been through that before, I totally understand that's just individuals. That's not the whole industry. For the most part, most of the people I've dealt with have been supported. And the support that I try to show young artists, I feel that's the mission that I've kind of tuned to, because younger artists need that platform. So we out there breaking as much young acts that's coming through in the game. And that's one of the things I quite enjoy, because the places that I play, especially doing the shows in Africa on the weekends, they love to hear the new artists. They love to hear Skilly Bang and Intense and I Water and, you name the dancehall artists, and they're into the Leela, they're into the young cats that's coming through. They love all of that. So it's a good place to kind of to open up ears. You've got 1.2 billion people in Africa. That's a whole continent. You like stream away, because you got 1.2 billion people's ears. And if you don't understand that, you've got to be that social creature. There's places, and not only Africa, there's Europe. And, you've got to be open and be able to be ready to embrace new audience, interact with the audience. It's not just about I mean, I'm not discrediting anybody. People do fantastic on social media, but you've also got to be a social creature. You've got to be able to, as I said, it's you're an artist, you do artwork. So they want to see how your heart works as well. So never discount the fans, them that who are following you, and give opportunity. People, there's so many young budding radio presenters, DJs who want to connect with you, and some of them are like, I ain't got no time for that, bro. Just remember, these guys will remember that you didn't open up to them. And when your career is, when it's going this way, it's okay. When the trajectory is like this way, it's when the trajectory is going that way, and these people will remember. They will remember, especially young DJs. Man, I hear some of the young DJs, the way some of them kind of have up the artist, them. I always kind of say to, when I do get my moments catching up with them, yo, open up to these cats, because they're fans. And guess what? These people are not only they're mad fans. They love the music more than you think. So give them the opportunity, open up, have conversations. Don't just think that you can sit on your social media and talk to, just open up your live and think that it doesn't work like that.
No,
Got to
Robbo,
be out there.
With your level of expertise and been in the game for so long and knowing what you know, I wanted to ask you, music has become, somewhat a numbers game as well. Hot in the streets, but weak in the streams. With Spotify now being in Jamaica, do you think that it will actually help to redefine who perhaps is the top man in the industry, or who are run dancehall or run the genre?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Spotify is a wonderful platform. Young people especially here in the UK, young people don't use Spotify. We all know young people are kind of more engaged on YouTube. That's kind of like their barometer. But remember, when people do click into YouTube, that doesn't mean they're into you. They're going to YouTube because, okay, this guy's got a lot of views. Let me see what that's about. It's curiosity. It's like when a car crashes, everybody slow down and rubbernecks to see. And that's what happens with YouTube. Sometimes YouTube gives this false sense of position for some people. But Spotify itself is not also altogether the barometer as well. But Spotify is very important that if you are doing music, you've got to make sure that you're making music that can be played on this platform and exploited the right way for you to make money. It's amazing how many artists who do dancehall don't think that, okay, let me clean up this track and put it on Spotify. So I have two versions. I have a raw version, which is in the streets, and something which they seem to think it's radio. It's not radio, it's streams. When the parents who have Spotify decide, okay, I'll give my daughter a mobile phone or a tablet, but I'm going to put parental lock on Spotify, there goes your streams. You ain't getting heard. So you could have the most salacious, sexiest, over-the-wall, ooh, baby, ooh, machuna, and the gal them love it. Nobody now hear on, because when these kids who could buy into your music or get into you as an artist, they ain't going to get into you because they don't own Spotify accounts. And they can also, parents do that. They put the locks on. All right, fair enough. You and the older kids can get into it. They go on YouTube. They watch it at school and what have you. But that's what it is. It's more rubbernecking. It's like they're not really into the music. And it's proven because you see artists with high stream counts and on YouTube and low streams that people are really not buying into you. They're buying into your video because it's, as I said, it's like some of them are like a car crash. You're just going by and looking. And, I click into videos and I think, okay, okay, right. I can't buy into you. The buying is different. So we're living obviously we're in this gig economy and everybody's fascinated by numbers because obviously the gig economy is about numbers. So people speak about numbers like it is everything. Numbers is not everything. I'm not an artist but I stay close to to music, and what I only can recount what happened to me when I was listening to music. I fell into the music like the characters of music drew me in. Sometimes it was just a simple thing like an album cover. Sometimes it was hearing that man on an interview. Sometimes it was going to a stage show and watching this guy perform, and like watching Garnet Silk when I was like, going to, I said, it's just Garnet. Am I going with that? And then after that, I'm like, yo, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this guy. So it's important that you the human side of music is kind of like implemented. I know we are, as I said, we are living in a gig economy, and everybody speak about numbers because numbers is this way of selling is all about numbers. Nobody needs to be anywhere to sell you anything. Nobody needs to drop anything at your foot. It's at a drop of a hat. But still, we're human beings, and that side of the music is really important. So the time you spend, fixing up your hair and your clothes and your pins and your pictures, sometimes try working on also your human side. Your human side is going to be really important. How you socially interact with your fans is going to be probably, in the end, when all the hype is over, that's the thing that's going to keep you, how people endear to you. So, You know, that's just my word of advice to artists. Just work on your human side. Work on your 640 times 640 is great, but the human side, that's even more greater.
No,
and some of the artists I admire and really like is because their human side is amazing.
Phenomenal.
And I stay fan to them.
In closing, Robbo, you know, you were at the BBC, One Extra, and to many that is perhaps a job or something that is glamorous or, you know, like a high achievement, but then you understood and knew when to walk away. And you were also able to see different opportunities when provided or when presented themselves to you. For persons who are listening, they may be stuck at a job that they feel like they know they need to let go, but they can't let go because of whatever reason. Or that person who is not able to see the opportunities that are being presented in front of them, or that individual who is unable to seek and create opportunities and just use their surrounding, like you in the shoe shop, hearing them having their own radio station and you're thinking, then I can have my own. What would you say to those individuals who are at a standstill on their journey on the road to success?
Well, you know, one thing that you shouldn't, it will be part of it's human nature to be fear is human nature. You know, the unknown is like, people are scared of the unknown. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow morning? But here comes Rona with her lung bag, and she's taught us that, you know, tomorrow is not promised to anyone, and she can come and disrupt your world. She just come and disrupt everybody's world. She just drop her bag and everybody's business get mashed up. And if this is not an experience for you, then you're still asleep. Fear is something that you can't let control you. You can't just be fearful, because fear is always going to control your next move. Fear is going to make you feel, okay, no, I don't think I'm going to walk. I left the BBC. It's too good here. You'll never know what's coming around the corner. And that same fear is what ends up controlling you. And that's where the problem really kind of starts and stops, is when fear controls you to, you know, you will never make that next move. And an opportunity could be right there in front of you. But if you don't actually look or actually just take that step, you'll never know. Your greatest achievement could be right next door. So don't be held back by fear. I thought, you know, for a moment that what else am I going to, what can I do? I couldn't make fear control me, because I knew that there was an audience. There's an audience that wants this music. All I got to do is just try to get it to them. I don't own a corporation. I don't own a $1 million media company. But so some little kids are just showing me they don't own anything. They just own an iPhone 11, and they've got an audience. They're not fearful. Look at they go out and they go for things. So don't be fearful. Don't let fear control you. Don't make it stop you from making your next move. And you know, it applies right across life. You know, if you do it, it will control you. And when it controls you, then you'll probably see it. The opportunity will be right there in front of you, and you won't take it. You've got to just eliminate as much fear as possible. You put that out the way, you start seeing things a little bit more clearer. So yeah, I kind of jumped off a building, a very tall, prestigious building. And I thought, I don't know what part of the drop I'm going to smash my head. But then a pair of wings just dropped out of my back. And that's what happened. It's like, and I started to fly. So it just went, and it was okay. It's fine. I'm still doing exactly what I'm doing. I don't have $1 million corporation. I don't need $1 million corporation. All I need is for people to hear the music. And once you're giving people, you're serving them the you know, this music that's been around here in the UK for over 45 years. It's the cornerstone of everything, every movement that's happened in UK music, reggae, black music's been around. We've lost some of the greats, you know, in recent weeks. You go to Chelsea football ground and watch Chelsea play, and you're hearing reggae. It's reggae music. That's the team runs out to the Liquidators. you know, turn on radio stations like that. It's got nothing to do music stations. They use music beds. It's reggae. You're talking about radio stations that's got a broad church of listeners all across the country. They're using our music. Our music is, you know, so once you can get it to the right ear, that's really what it's about. Is just getting it, serving it, making it palatable, and everything else comes after. And obviously we do need to do a little bit more. We are getting used to being businessmen and businesswomen in reggae, and that's obviously a change that's kind of happening, and some people are not used to it. But we have to treat it as it is. It is a business system. You know, first of all, when people step out and they're in the bathroom with their comb, and they all dream to become part of the music business. Mm-hmm. So it's a business. It is a business.
Wow. Robbo, thank you so much. This has been really, really insightful, inspirational, and I'm happy that you shared your journey. The messages from our listeners are just interesting. This one says, like the realness of this interview, blessings, big up, Dave from Fletcher's Land. Another person says, an absolutely inspirational overview, exposing us to how the wide reggae culture is being promoted globally. ROBBO RANX, I learned a lot. Big up yourself. Thank you so much.
People Station.
Of course, that's Road to Success, the journey. Today we journeyed with ROBBO RANX, UK radio presenter and DJ entrepreneur. Of course, you can check out his online radio, ROBBO RANX Radio, a promoter and ambassador for Jamaican music and culture.
People Station, and the system, DTI, love them, because we love them. Them a call us pirates, them a call us illegal broadcasters, just because we play what the people want. Analyze. So them a call us pirates, them a call us illegal broadcasters. DTI try stop us, but they can't. One station, it couldn't run England. Two station, it couldn't run England. Three station, it couldn't praise the nation. Everybody want me listen to the PlayStation. Advertise the stage show and make a dance all around. Never take the equipment.
This one says, amazing and powerful information. Keep rising, my brother. On that note, we're gonna go